The intention of this video is to help you if you are currently burning out and struggling with a low ticket offer, whether you're a coach, whether you're an agency, whether you're a solopreneur, a creator, whatever that is, and you have a low ticket offer. You know you've got so much value to offer, but you're just struggling to scale it. You're struggling to grow your business. Well, the intention of this is to show you a better way that I had to go through years of struggle. I had to invest tens of thousands to actually realize the solution, which is actually quite an obvious solution. However, I didn't have the belief, I didn't have the self-worth, I didn't have the knowledge of actually how to execute it at the time. So before I dive into it, I want to share the context of myself. I was in sales from 19 years old. I've been in the sales industry now for 9 years, and I was in high ticket sales, but I was trapped. I was stuck in England. I was driving around the country 6 days a week, and I was selling solar panels, so high ticket solar panel systems. And I was earning good money. You know, I was meeting amazing people, but deep down, my strongest value, and if you're watching this video, and probably one of the main reasons why you wanted an online business in the first place was you wanted more freedom. And when I was in high ticket sales in person, I really didn't have any freedom. So I ended up leaving that role, and I started a podcast called Freedom Lifestyle. On the back end of that podcast, I actually then set up a low ticket membership called the Freedom Lifestyle Membership. And the reason why I started the podcast and the reason why I started the membership in the first place was because I was going to a lot of like networking and business conference events, and I saw someone on stage and she built a 7-figure business by having a podcast and having a low ticket membership. And I was like, ooh, I could do this. So that's what I went and did. I went 50-50 with my ex-business partner, my best friend, Jacob. And we started the Freedom Lifestyle podcast. We started interviewing some amazing entrepreneurs, millionaires, multi-millionaires. We even interviewed someone called Spencer Lodge on episode 31 on the Freedom Lifestyle podcast, season 1. He's worth 100 million. So, you know, we're getting around some really cool entrepreneurs. So that's why we started the membership, the Freedom Lifestyle community, because our mission was to help and give the education and the personal development to help more people create freedom. That was our mission and purpose. However, financially, where I left my sales role, I had no other income. I had no other income at all when I started the business. So starting a low ticket offer, it was £20 a month was what I was charging. Within 2 months, I actually managed to get 70 clients within 2 months, which sounds great, but when you actually do the maths, that's £1,400 a month. But we had so many expenses. You know, we had a CRM, you know, we had like different platforms. You know, we were using, at the time, we were using Kajabi to host our trainings. We were using Zoom, you know, all these other subscriptions that we needed. Plus, that business was between myself and also my business partner, Jacob. So when you do the maths, we were left with like a few £100 each. And this led to severe burnout. So if you're watching this now and you've got a low ticket offer, or you're someone like a sales rep, a coach, or an entrepreneur that's looking to build a high ticket offer or any offer, my strongest piece of advice, and I'll be diving into why on this training, is to go all in with high ticket. And the reason being, now I learned this the hard way, but not only was it financially not making sense, because 70 clients is quite a lot of energy to get 70 clients, but because of the finances that it was bringing in, like the amount of time and energy we were putting into that money for how much we were getting out was not worth it. Not only that, you also attract clients that aren't high ticket yet. Therefore, the results and testimonials and stuff you're gonna get aren't gonna be as good, because when people pay, they pay attention. That I can vividly remember, I made my first biggest investment into myself, into personal development, and it was a £9,000 investment. And it was scary. You know, if you've ever made an investment before into yourself, I'm sure you've experienced that bit of fear. But when you overcome that fear and you make these type of big investments, not £20 a month, but like a 9K investment, or like one of my biggest investments I did was a £20,000 investment into a one-to-one mentor, which I'll be coming on to shortly. And this is where I had the epiphany about actually going high ticket. So not only when you got low ticket, you need so much volume if you want to make a good income. Number 2 is because people aren't paying that much, they might even continue to pay the payments without even using it. But Do you really want to be making money from people not actually using your service? Because you're charging so low, what happens is people don't take it seriously enough. People pay 20 quid just going to a coffee shop nowadays, right? So when they're investing that into education, into leveling up, they're not going to take it as seriously. And people forget about it. These subscriptions, and then one day they go in their bank and they're like, oh, bloody hell, I keep paying for this, but I'm not actually using it. And why aren't they using it? Because there's no skin in the game. And having skin in the game, when you have clients, like you could genuinely teach people the same stuff if they charge you 20 quid or if you charge them 10 grand. You could teach them the same stuff, but they're going to get way better results by you charging more because they're actually going to pay attention. They're actually going to take action. They're actually going to show up. Like, there are so many knock-on benefits from transitioning from low ticket to high ticket. So when did the epiphany happen for me? And I want to dive into the reasons why I was held back from doing it in the first place, because I spent my whole life selling. You know, I spent years selling. I did low ticket sales, but then I transitioned into high ticket sales, and I was in the solar panel industry for 2 years in that industry. You know, closing deals that were like between like 10,000 all the way up to my biggest deal I closed in solar was 25 grand. So I went from 10 to 25 grand deals down to £20 a month memberships. And I found it harder, you know, sometimes selling that than selling something higher ticket. And I had the epiphany because I actually interviewed someone called Liam James Collins. I'll share with you in the description the podcast where I actually interviewed him, and he built a $25 million company with his co-founder Lewis Raymond Taylor, and it's the largest online coaching platform in the world. They're in 87 different countries. And I interviewed him in London on my podcast, and it was so inspiring. Like, myself and Jacob, we were running the podcast together. Like, we left that so fired up, and we went out for a drink with him afterwards next door. We started diving into our business. He was diving into his business, you know, how they had a high ticket coaching offer, and you know, they've now gone on to build a $25 million company. And he gave us the epiphany of, like, if you want a scalable business, you're able to have a team, you know, run a sales team as an example. If you really want to grow this and have leverage, get amazing clients, get amazing testimonials, make a lot of money, but make a big impact in this world, then high ticket's the way. And then me and Jacob were like, yeah, of course it is. You know, we started to reflect of like, why weren't we doing high ticket? And the reason we wasn't doing high ticket was because we didn't have the knowledge around it of how to do it. We had mindset blocks around, would people invest that type of money into us? Like, you may be resonating with the different blocks that you might realize you have, or you might not even realize you have, that's holding you back from actually charging what you're worth. And this was one of the most life-changing moments. Liam, their scalable offer was group mentorship. So that's why they were able to scale it so much. But Liam was actually opening up a few spaces to work with him on a one-to-one basis. And it was actually a £20,000 investment to work with him on a one-to-one basis. And me and Jacob, we were earning £1,400 a month from the business. We didn't have any other incomes because we both left our high ticket sales role to go all in with the business. We had the mentality to just go all in. And yeah, there's pros to that because you're just like, I'm all in, I'm making this work. But the cons to that is you then can sometimes be too reliant on the business making an income. Yes, we wanted to make an impact, but we also needed to make an income from it. And that can be a dangerous place, especially when you go down the route of helping people, coaching people, etc. You want to make sure that you're in a really good position to then be able to give that guidance and help. And even though we had the great idea, at the time we took a massive risk, and I'm so grateful for that risk. But like, looking back now, I can so see why I was charging so little compared to what I really should have been charging. Because, you know, by that point, I've personally invested over £50,000 into mentors. You know, I've had months where I closed over 6 figures in high ticket sales. I've done a lot of work. I traveled all over the world. I added a lot of knowledge to actually share for the younger generation, but I just didn't back myself to do it. And it was a 20K investment. And obviously I just shared there our financial situation. We was not in a position to invest, but we just had a gut feeling. We had a gut feeling to just do it. And I want you to write this down or remember this, but the other side of that feeling, the other side of that fear, amazing things happen. And we went, Liam, we're in. We just need to work out the logistics of how we're going to be able to do this. I had to make a really uncomfortable conversation with my nan. I ended up lending half the money for it to be able to invest into that mentorship, which was a horrible conversation, but I just knew I needed to do it. And then the other majority myself and Jacob, we got a part-time sales role alongside to bring in that additional income to then it pay the other half, because we paid half up front and then the other half we paid a month later. So we got a sales role between us, and then we paid it off. And I'm so grateful, because fast forward 6 months, we did our first launch on our high ticket offer, no ads, all organic, and we actually closed £16,500 in deals within 3 days. So I went from like a low ticket offer that was like burning me out to launching and earning £16,500 in 3 days. And the only reason that was possible was because I took the risk to invest into a mentor. I learned all of his knowledge and guidance from obviously building a $25 million company, and I went all in. I went all in and I committed, and I'm so grateful I made that commitment. I made that scary decision, and I hope this has been some guidance for yourself to move forward and charge more. Charge what you're worth, because when you increase the investment, not only will you become more confident, but you're increasing your level of self-worth. Your prospects and leads and clients are going to take you more seriously. And let's do some maths. And this is what really blew my mind. Like, converting 70 clients, even on a low ticket, is a great start. But that was £20 a month, that's £1,400. But imagine I got them 70 clients. Imagine they all invested 10K, as an example. 70, that'd be 700 grand compared to 1,400, which is nuts, you know? And I'm not saying to charge 10 grand, but if you were to go from £20 a month, you know, to more like your 1.5 grand, your 2,000, your 3,000. Ease yourself into the high ticket. Get testimonials, get case studies. Then once you have that evidence, you can then slowly keep increasing it as you've got more testimonials, you've got more proof, you've got more evidence, you've got more belief in yourself, because the more results you get, the more belief you have, the more you're able to charge. Or even if you don't increase your investment, you'll be able to scale it regardless, because you're going to have better marketing, you're going to have a better network, you're going to start getting more referrals. And that's how high ticket works. And yeah, my goal is to share all of the mistakes that I've made. So make sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be diving into different sales strategies, different sales tips.